Oh, jeez. I hear you're getting injured.
That podcast setup took a little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm trying to streamline this process of setting up the podcast because it'd be taking a while sometimes, but it's okay. We're here. Today's guest is Wen Huber. He's a videographer, cinematographer, photographer, all the content creation.
Yeah.
And we're really stoked to have him on as a guest today. He has a crazy story to share. So before we get into it, let's roll the intro music. What's up, dude?
What's up, bro? Finally meeting you.
Fun fact. This is the first time that me and Wen have ever met in person.
And we've known each other like on Instagram for like a year. And we literally live in basically the same city.
Yeah. You know those friends that you have that are like Instagram friends?
Yeah.
You know, like in the same city, you like comment on each other's posts and you'll like, you know, message each other about certain things, but then you never actually have met up. Yeah. Well, this is one relationship that was straight up built off of like social media, which is crazy. And I think you have an awesome story to share. Today's topic is basically about there's like someone hammering something in the back. Okay, it's okay, guys. This is what happens when you film a podcast and you don't have a fire studio of your own. Sometimes you have to just go with the punches. So today's topic is about defying all odds. And I know that you've had a crazy journey to bring up to where you are today. So maybe let's talk about who you are, how you got here, and what you do.
Yeah, so what's up? My name's Wen, as you already know. If you're watching the video, you know that I'm Asian. But it's funny because, so I was born in China and I went through an accident when I was just a baby, fire related, and I was burned from the waist down. And right after that burning happened, I was left at the doorsteps of an orphanage with no name, no birth certificate, no information of anything, like of my parents and stuff like that. And obviously the orphanage, you know, they were gonna take me in because you know.
That's our job.
Yeah.
It's an orphanage.
Yeah, right. So they took me in, and I just lived there for 6.5 years, and then I had a family approach me, you know, my current family that approached me, and they were American. They live in Washington, and they found me from like a website. I don't know what the website was, but they saw me up there along with the other few kids, and they flew out to China and met me. They really liked me, thank goodness. And
sorry guys, we're in a studio and there's literally someone going to town with a hammer. So if you hear like a doof 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 doof, it's that. So don't worry. Anyway.
Yeah, and so after they, they liked me, they, I flew back with them from China to America, which was really weird because I didn't even know what planes were, and I barely knew who these people were that were taking me, and I just remember crying because I didn't know who they were, really, and yeah, so I flew from China all the way to Washington, Seattle, Washington, kind of random, I think, in my opinion, out of all the places, and after I moved to Washington, I was very lucky for the family that chose me because they were able to help me with my burns and stuff like that. I did need a prosthetic leg. I still have one. The orphanage was unfortunately unable to provide that for me. And so you're probably wondering, like, how did I wear shoes, like, when I was in the orphanage?
Yeah.
Well, it's weird. If you're watching this on video, I was just burned. So I was burned from the waist down, but the severe, like, burns were towards my foot. And so my foot basically burned off. That sounds very dramatic. And so all I have is a heel. So it goes leg down to the heel, and basically it's a cast. So when I wore shoes, when I didn't have a prosthetic leg, I would just stick my heel in there and tie it really tight. And that's how I wore, my shoes. But luckily my family that, I have now was able to provide me with a prosthetic leg, provide me with a lot of opportunities that I just didn't have back in China. Yeah.
That's a crazy story though, if you think about it. Like, don't know who your real parents are.
Yeah.
You never you never even knew what day specifically you were born on or birth certificate. You had to get a prosthetic leg. You came over to America. It must have been like crazy overwhelming for like someone who was so young at the time and just trying to figure out what was going on.
Right.
That's just crazy, man. That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to see that you basically came up above all those hardships that could have been detrimental to like your growth,
Right.
you know, and you're like just coming past all of that to pursue your passion, pursue your dreams, which is inspiring. So, and then, you know, you mentioned you came to Seattle, like what part, like did you have, I don't know, did you find a community that you fit in or like, what was that like?
It's funny because, you know, for people who don't live in Seattle, I just say Seattle because any other town
I
say.
know. Everyone says they live in Seattle, but no one actually lives in Seattle.
Yeah, that's
freaking
kind of funny.
expensive.
Yeah. I actually live like about almost 2 hours away from Seattle. It's a place called Sijuwuli. It's very country.
Yeah. No
No Asian people that I saw, maybe like one, and that was in the mirror. So me. And so it's funny because I was never really like, you know, I'm Asian and nobody's, you know, not Asian, I guess. Cause I was homeschooled. I was pretty reserved at my house, in my home.
In your family life.
Yeah. And I mean, I went to church and I saw different people, but you know, I never really thought about it that much. It wasn't until high school was until I realized that I'm kind of different, you know. There's, you know, Asians. I mean, I knew ethnicities, but still, for you to be in an environment where you're surrounded by thousands of kids that are so different, I was just totally shocked by it because I was used to so much less people, and because that was my first year of public school, and yeah, it was really interesting to see the diversity here
In your community.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Was there anything specifically about like your upbringing that was difficult for you to like make friends in at school, or like how, you know, you maybe like you mentioned before this podcast that you had prosthetic legs,
Right.
so did kids view you differently at the time, or how did you deal with that?
I would say the first year of public school, first year of high school, I kind of noticed like kids would look at me differently because I wore shorts all the time. This is my first year of high school and I was super excited because I was going to meet so many new people, and I totally forgot about the part where people like might judge you. You know, you weren't even thinking about it. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it, which is great because, you know, I didn't care. And so the first year I noticed like people started like looking at me differently, treating me a little bit differently. And it wasn't until the second year of high school, my sophomore year, I decided to like change and like put pants on, you know, like, you know, full pants, just to kind of see like the reaction I would get. Because to me, first impressions is important. And so sometimes if the first thing people see is that, they may like look at you differently. Maybe that's not a good person you should hang with anyways if they're gonna look at you like that.
That's a good point, yeah.
But yeah.
It's the reality, you know?
Yeah, it's presentation. And so, yeah, I decided to, you know, up my style a bit from just shorts and a short sleeve shirt, you know. And I think making friends was a bit easier, but I wasn't like, I would say I was pretty social butterfly. Like I was funny. I would like to say I was funny. Yeah. So it was pretty easy to make friends.
Yeah. But you had to adapt.
Right. 100%.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, what was your, I guess you are a filmmaker now and a videographer. Like how were you exposed to, I guess, a camera? When did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so my sister, for her 13th birthday, she got a camera, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool. I didn't really I knew what a camera was, but I didn't know like what you could do with it all, right? I saw her take photos, and I was like, that's kind of dope. That's kind of cool. And then, I don't remember when, but I think it was 12 for me. I got an iPod Touch, so I started taking photos on that. And I remember downloading this stop motion app where you could take pictures and make it look like it's moving. So I did that a lot with my Legos because I love Legos back then. And I just made movies with it, and I thought it was super cool. I showed my brother, my sister, my sister's friends, my brother's friends. They all said it was dope, and I was like, okay, feeding my ego a little bit. I was like, this is so cool. Like, you know, I did something so simple that they didn't really know how to do, and they thought it was cool. So that was the base like of when I started.
And then when did you start getting into more, I guess, not pro, but getting into dabbling into the more professional side of
like a DSLR?
Yeah. Like obviously you started with an iPod Touch, flip phone camera, like whatever you can get your hands on in terms of like capturing moments. But then how did you transition into like content creation to maybe like what it is today?
Well, when I was 16, I started my job at Target. And I knew I always wanted to... Target. Valley Village, as some people say. No, so I worked at Target. I was a cart attendant, you know, worked really hard. I was still at school. And I knew I wanted a camera. And in Target, they have like this electronics section. And I saw the camera I wanted. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna buy that one day. Yeah. And a couple months working there, I finally got the camera, made some videos. For some reason I thought immediately once I got the camera I was gonna just like do all this content and like become a famous YouTuber and stuff like that, and that didn't happen. but it was definitely a good starting point because I learned a lot from that first camera. Yeah. I graduated high school. And at that time, I was starting to take Instagram more seriously. I was posting with a purpose because I feel like a lot of people on Instagram, they just post to post.
True, yeah. And they just post the bangers.
Yeah,
like me.
Yeah. No. Yours are dope. No, I feel like what I mean is like there's a lot of people who have Instagram. They treat it like Facebook. You know, it's just like to connect with friends.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is dope. Which is what its purpose is for. But I wanted to take it up another level, and so. The moment when I started taking it seriously was probably my senior year of high school. I hopped on the Instagram grind, and at a point I was just posting photos to post, but I noticed that it wasn't really getting me anywhere in terms of progress with just like followers and stuff like that. It wasn't really getting me because it was only being shared with my friends.
Yeah.
And so I started just trying to post more with a purpose and focus more on quality than quantity. And then so I just kept posting on Instagram, and then a few influencers started to reach out, and I was like, okay, like I must be doing something slightly right if people are starting to
definitely
contact me. So as I was getting more serious with Instagram, I was still working at Target and doing school, and I got an opportunity to work with someone, and I wasn't really feeling Target necessarily because they were offering more pay, and I was able to do what I love. So
we gotta start somewhere, though.
Yeah,
we gotta start somewhere. And I always, a big common thing I'm seeing with these podcasts and people I've talked to, just in general. Everyone has humble beginnings. Like no one goes from 0 to 100. Yeah. No one starts as like a beast content creator as soon as they pick up a camera. When you started your job at Target, you going against our topic, which is defying all odds. Like you were from China, you had to like learn a new language, you had to learn a new family. You had prosthetic leg that was difficult for you because you were homeschooled the whole time. So when you're like getting exposed to a new environment, new people, and on top of that, you didn't really have all the funds to get all the gear you wanted. So you got the job at Target, and then you started with humble beginnings, like a Canon Rebel, you said?
Yeah.
A smaller camera that's not like, you don't get 120, 1080 slow motion footage on that thing.
There's only 24.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has humble beginnings, and so did you. And then ultimately it led to you quitting your job. And then you said that you quit it because you were working with some people and you saw some opportunities there, so like maybe you can hit on that a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the influencers that reached out to me, they wanted me to join their like creative team where we would just kind of make content for his social media and YouTube channel. So we did a little trial run. I was editing his videos and doing that, and trial run went great. Everything went good, and I started editing for him for a couple of months, and after the trial was over, that's when I decided to quit my job. And it was interesting because I was like, you know, this could go really bad with this person. Like, you don't know. You never know. There was no contracts or anything. I was just kind of like full send because I didn't really have anything to lose. Like, luckily, my parents are super supportive and loving and caring that, you know, they would, you know, always, of course, take me in, which is I'm very thankful for that because not a lot of people
have that luxury.
Yeah, of course. And I know, I'm very aware that it is a luxury to have supportive parents. And so that made it really, really incredibly easier to full send. Not saying it's impossible.
Full send.
Full send. Yeah.
Full send.
Yeah.
I love that.
So when I quit Target, my mom was actually like really like, it was interesting because the reaction I got from her was actually very surprised because I didn't think she would like be the most happy about it because I didn't think she understood, but she was like pretty like proud of me and I was like, okay. Yeah. So summer approached and I was still editing videos and then something came up between us, unfortunately, and things just didn't necessarily end well. And so I actually, for about a month, I didn't have a job. I was just kind of like chilling, and it was in the summertime. And then I previously made a friend in the beginning of, actually everything happened this year. But in the beginning of this year, I made a friend who makes YouTube videos, and I just remember that she reached out to me wanting, you know, to work with me and stuff like that. I hit her up, and she had an opportunity for me to like do some videos for her, edit some videos and shoot some videos. And literally within a month, she flew me out to LA, and I was able. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was dope, and I was able to make a video for her, and it was definitely scary. It was definitely intimidating because it was still new to me. You know, it was still kind of new to me.
Like getting paid to do videos, like for influencers and things like that. It's a whole other industry, like a whole other realm from what you might have been used to. What you knew from school, like how to make money.
100%. And it was weird because I'm one of those people, and this is like very like relatable to almost every person who's starting out, is like knowing your worth. Like I was like, people would pay to fly me out to make a video for them. I didn't really believe it. Like I wouldn't even believe it until I saw the receipt for the ticket. I was like, no way. Like, you know, it's crazy. And this all happened this year. Like, you know, so a lot's happened, and I typically don't like to look back on it. You know, like I typically don't like to look at how much I've came.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because like I like to push through.
Okay. You don't like to like give yourself credit until you feel like you want.
Until I feel like
you feel like you deserve it.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're still on the grind, and you still need to like push towards 100%. Something better. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely don't feel like I'm at the point in my life where I can be like.
Yeah, like coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd ever want to be, because I like being busy and doing stuff. It's not fun just like
chilling. Well, yeah, on that same topic, you said that there's that month when that first venture didn't work out for you, and then obviously you've clearly found other avenues of opportunities.
Yeah.
But could you explain a little bit? There's a lot of people that try to go full send on something, and it just like falls like on its face. Yeah. And they're like, why didn't you go back to get a job at Target? Like, what made you want to be like, you know what? Like, even though you had no job, no gigs, you're like, what mental state were you in to still push through and try to look for more opportunities instead of going back to the social norm of getting a job?
Right. Yeah. It's actually really interesting because I've had a lot of incidences where I've needed money, but I'm one of those people that would hate to ask their parents for it because I like earning my stuff. Mm-hmm. I never asked them for money. But it was weird because there'd be like random instances, there'd be random opportunities where, you know, like a job for say was presented to me, and you know, money was obviously another factor of that. And it's gonna sound cliche, but it's all thanks to God, because there'd be times where, you know, throughout the beginning of this year, I'd be financially incapable of doing something. But then just like random things would start popping up for me, like literally, and I wouldn't have to do anything for it. And that sounds cliche, like to say thanks to God.
It's not even cliche. It's not even cliche at all.
But yeah, 100%. Like I always know that I'll be taken care of, and it's kind of like it's like it's comforting to know that God's got my back. You know what I mean? And my parents too, of course.
For sure. I mean, I think that's a big part of a lot of people's lives, even my own. You know, like God is a big driving factor behind a lot of the blessings that we receive in our life, and making sure that we always, you know, accredit our spiritual goals, our spiritual journeys back to, you know, where credit is due. But with that being said, I know that you obviously had that little break in between, and you're saying that you were getting these opportunities, you know. I know that you're pretty good at, I guess, connecting with people, kind of getting brands to kind of notice your stuff. Could you, like, for people who out there who are listening and watching, who don't know at all how to start, like how to reach out to a brand, how to reach out to an influencer, like what do you even say? Are you like, hey, I make videos, hire me? Like, what is that process for you? How did you go through that learning curve?
So the way I met like the YouTuber that I work with now, she had like 10K followers on Instagram, and I think 10K on YouTube as well. And I knew that she wasn't like too big enough to where if I messaged her, she wouldn't get it. But it's funny because I liked a few of her photos, and then she actually messaged me and said like, "Yeah, your content's dope. I would love to like meet up with you and like do some content." And that was the beginning of this year when I was working for the other person. And so yeah, like I it's just like, even though she messaged me, I would say just messaging people, it was honestly perfect timing, because, you know, if she got any bigger, I feel like she may have dismissed me because I was like small too.
Maybe.
But I would say, you know, sending emails, just doing your research, like key is research, like find out how to do it, because I feel like a lot of people they just ask how, but then they never do. Like for me, if you really want something, you'll find out how to do it. You'll research it and everything, and that's how I've learned everything, is just from, you know, YouTube videos and stuff like that. But definitely just emailing people, messaging them. I use LinkedIn sometimes. What I do is I go on LinkedIn, and let's say you wanted to do something with Red Bull, but if you email Red Bull, you're just gonna get sent straight to their customer service. So what I would do is I would search like the marketing like lead or whatever, and then just email that person and connect with them. That was like one of the ways I connected with a few of the brands. So that's like a little nugget
right there. Y'all. MIDCONVO with the nuggets happen in the middle of the conversation. That was definitely one of them. I mean, I definitely have used that avenue as well. Just like you said, research. Like a lot of times people want to work with clients, and they'll just send out like a shotgun email and be like, all right, cool, let's see who hits me back up. But no matter, even if it's not a brand, it could be a restaurant, it could be an influencer. Just do your research, like figure out how you as a creator, or you as whatever passion that you're doing and whatever client you're trying to obtain, do your research on what value that you can bring to them. Because, you know, the thing is, you have to keep in mind, as much talent as you have, as cool as you are, all these brands, all these people, they get tons of people 100%. Hitting them up all the time, being like, yo, let's work together. But then the one person that hits them up and they're like, let's work together, I can do A, B, C, Z, like A through Z for you. That's the one that's going to get that gig. You know what I mean? So,
and I think brands like that, because you're showing initiative.
You're showing that you actually are not just like canning an email. You actually did your research, and you can get the job done well. So that's cool how you like kind of shared how you've been able to work with influencers and brands.
And for me, I was always like the kid that always asked how and why. And so like for me, I would always like, how can I connect with them? And then just like, you know, I'd always like try to figure out that part, and then why do I deserve to like work with them? So the how and why was always something I kind of
always questioning. That's cool.
Which can be a good thing if you're not my parents, because they would be like, man, you just stop,
just chill, bro. Just chill.
You don't need to know everything. I'm like, but I do. You know?
Well, I mean, that's part of your personality that has gotten to where you are today. We talked about this before the podcast, but I actually caught Wen, guys, before he leaves to Korea. This is 2 days. We're doing this podcast 2 days before he goes across the country, across the world. Let me say, not country, but you're going to Korea, Bali, and Jakarta.
Correct.
And you're getting flown out. Like you're going with a group of creatives and you're collaborating with them. So that's a huge opportunity for you. Like that's just awesome, because I mean, kind of following along this podcast, you are that hammer is bad.
Yeah.
But you are an orphan that got adopted to a loving family, immigrated here from China, obviously went through some hardships and struggles in your own life, worked a very normal job like a lot of people do when they go to high school, like Target.
Yeah.
And now you're going to Korea, Bali, and Jakarta, making content with dope creatives. Like, how do you even process all that? Like, how do you... I think a lot of people see this part though. Right. They see this Wen. Yeah. They see the Wen of going to Korea and Bali and Jakarta, but no one sees the Wen of those like little breaks you had in between and what it took to get there.
It's definitely interesting because when you say it like that, even now I'm kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, you like reflect on your own life.
Yeah, because like I don't know why, but I never really like just sat down and reflected like and made it simple, kind of like how you did. But that's why for me it's dope. For other people, they're like, whoa, like that's crazy how you went from here to here. And I'm aware of that, of course, that a lot of things had to happen to get to where I am now. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's honestly super cool opportunity. I'm very thankful. I don't know how I don't even know how I'm here.
Fake it till you make it, bro. Fake it till you make it.
100%.
No, not even. You're not even faking it. You're actually really talented, and I think it's really cool to see your growth, because even when I met you on social media a while back, even since then, you've kind of grown, not just like in your skills as a cinematographer, but also just your business skills in order to like close clients and build relationships. Yeah. So I guess for the listeners and viewers, if they're going through a similar situation, let's say they're working a job, or maybe they're still in school, maybe they have parents that are not so supportive, what advice would you give to someone who... they're not a beast yet. They're not a pro at what they do, but they do like it. They have passion in it. Yeah. What advice would you give to them?
It's funny because I've heard this from other videos, and I always thought it was like not like actually helpful, but just kind of like make it a side hustle. If you can start making more money in your side hustle than your main job, then and then of course you start to feel more confident about it, then I would say you could possibly make that jump. It's all in the confidence too, which is very important to have, because you'll get beat up if you have no confidence. If you're kind of like, well, here's my video. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like confidence is definitely key. But I would say, wait until you're making more money in your side hustle to make it your primary. And then with the parents thing, it's like I'm very thankful that my parents are supportive. And if you're living with your parents and they don't necessarily support what you do, I would maybe not say what I'm doing and let the work show for itself. You know what I mean?
I like
so
that.
kind of like work hard and then show them maybe that you're like making money, for example. Because parents, they're always gonna hear like things from their kids saying, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. So they kind of just brush it off, I think when you really take initiative and action to make something happen, show rather than say, I think that would be really, I think that's gonna help those people a lot. But yeah,
that's sick. I can relate to that, because I'm on the flip side of your experience. I mean, my parents are super supportive, super loving. I love them, all the time, and they're super great. But one thing's for sure, like just my family in general, like they were never like not supportive of my dreams, but definitely I did feel like a little bit of pushback. Right. Obviously not enough to where I was like, oh, I hate my life. It's just like, typical parents, they're just watching out for you. And it is hard to make it in an industry like the arts or anything creative, because it's so saturated, quote unquote, which I don't think it is. But there's a lot of times where people don't make it in this industry, and our parents just want the best for us, and they want to make sure that we can survive in a crazy world that we live in right now. Right. So definitely relate to that. But yeah, like you said, show it and make it a side hustle before you make a jump. Because one thing I made that quitting my job film, and also this podcast and all the things that I'm doing. I'm just
link in bio.
Link in bio, straight plug. But I'm just trying to make a point to people that it is a process, and you don't just go like full send off of like a whim.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think social media and society and a lot of creatives nowadays, like they're doing everyone a disservice by only talking about their wins, by only being like, hey, check out my travel, I'm traveling across the world, and check out my hot girlfriend or my hot boyfriend and my nice car. But it's just like, bro, no one, if you do that, people will be like, how did you get there? And then feel discouraged about them pursuing their dreams.
Right.
I'm trying to show like the realness of making that jump and understand that it is a side hustle. It's calculated risk, like making sure that your side hustle is doing well, and then you should quit your job to pursue your passion. You should never quit your job and then try to figure stuff out. I think it's a terrible way to do it. Like once you get to a point where your job, whether that's Target or you could be a freaking, you know, CFO of a crazy awesome company, and you could still feel unfulfilled. There's people who are CEOs out there of big name companies that are depressed because they're just not passionate about what they're doing, and they're making tons of money. But the thing is, until your side passion is interfering with your day job, you should just, you know, keep it at a side hustle, and that should be motivation for you to keep pushing to make sure you could break out of that mold, right?
And kind of adding to that, because a lot of people, I feel like nowadays with social media and how fast you can get things, I feel like they expect that fame will come to them. Like, I'm using fame as an example of achievement, but like, for example, I used to want to become an actor, and
that's crazy.
Asian representation, let's go. It's funny because when I was younger, I always wanted to become an actor, and I had this weird thing. Every time New Year's hit, I'd always say, this is gonna be the year
that you become an actor.
That's something good, like something that would like, because I want to be famous too, kind of. So I was like, this is gonna be the year I'm gonna become like a famous actor, and then it didn't happen. Second year, this is gonna be the year I do something great and I'll get recognized. And then like third year, this is gonna be something great, and like it just didn't happen. And like beginning of this year, I really didn't say any of that. I just kind of, you know, enjoyed the New Year's and just kind of played the year how it did. And it's really interesting because I was saying what I wanted to do, and I was saying what I wanted to do for the second year. I was saying what I wanted to do for the third year, and then like for the fourth year, I just didn't say anything, and then that's when I just started doing
and started growing. For real. I think that's a good point, because sometimes people, they set expectations for themselves. And then too high, you know what I mean? And then they'll get disappointed. And then that brings them deeper into the hole that they were already digging themselves into. You know, it's kind of like the gym. I mean, I need to get back into the gym. But you know, the New Year's coming up, January. You already know there's about to be a ton of people in the gym. You know, everyone's going to be like, you know what? By the summer, I'm about to be ripped, have a six pack. But why is it that by like February, March, they're like, no one's in the gym anymore? Because everyone's like, trickle down. Their egos are hurt. Their confidence is hurt because they're not seeing the results that they'd like. You know what I mean? But I think what you said, you just have to just do it, coast. Don't set too high of expectation for yourself. It's just that 1% rule. Just baby steps each day. If you're growing 1% each day, compounded over a year, which is kind of what I feel like is happening to you right now. Like you didn't say like you wanted to become a YouTuber, you wanted to become an actor, you wanted to become an influencer, but you didn't come out the gate, and then after 1 month you're like, dude, why am I not an influencer yet? You just like started with like a humble opportunity, then the next one, then the next one, and now you're traveling to Korea and Bali, and even that will lead to another opportunity that is a new threshold for you that you didn't know that you would be able to hit. But if you had that as your initial goal without thinking about anything else, you might have got discouraged. You might not even have this opportunity coming your way.
That's actually a really good point. That's funny, because like I definitely didn't think I was gonna be going to Bali at all this year.
That's
like,
a crazy
I
place to
didn't like. I didn't like.
I'm jealous.
And I don't. And I don't say this to flex. But it's funny because I haven't been to LA since I was 13, and like this year I've been to LA. Like it's not a lot, but I've been to LA 3 times. And then so it's like cool because, and this is all after I quit my job, and it's just like kind of going back to what you were saying, where it's like a compound effect. It's like when you work out and then the moment you start seeing results, you just give up. Because you're like, oh, I'm starting to see results, okay. And then you just stop going to the gym. But you're not going to progress if you just quit. So people expect it to be a thing where, you know, one picture, boom, famous. You know, you're kind of like that. You know what I mean? And it's not like that. And I think people know that, but I feel like they lie to themselves and tell them, no, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be me. I'm gonna be that person that just poof, blows up. Yeah. And you might be.
I agree. Honestly, like overnight success is not real.
Right.
It's so funny because on YouTube, there's a couple people that I've been watching now that have blown. I don't know if you watch Matt Diavella. Yeah, but he's like targeting that minimalist vibe right now on YouTube. And when I first found his profile, he was, I think, 160,000 subscribers, and he's already had been making YouTube videos for probably like years before that point. And he even made one talking about algorithms and how he's been putting in so much work. And you know, sometimes it's not about the numbers and just pushing and pushing and pushing. So he forgot what we just talked about, that like the expectation. He just kind of started doing his thing, started his podcast, putting out regular content. I just checked out his account the other day. He's literally almost at 700,000 subs. And he blew up from one of the videos that he made.
Oh, really?
So it's just like understanding that it's a process. Like there is no overnight success. I mean, given there are people that do blow up off of one video, but unless you actually have credibility behind that one video, that blown up part is not going to last. If you blow up, you have to have an archive of things, of people, like of things to look at. Because a lot of people... this is like something I learned, and a recommendation I give people trying to do YouTube is they always try to like make viral videos like out the gate. So it's like, let's say you start a YouTube channel, your second video pops off, gets 1 million views. It's like, that's actually really bad, because let's say 1 million people come to your channel, you have 2 videos. Nobody's gonna subscribe to you because you haven't built that platform, that audience yet. They'll be like, oh, this guy doesn't even post regularly. Like, I'm not gonna subscribe to him. But let's say you've had posted already 150 videos, and then that 151st video gets 1 million views, you're gonna get a ton of subscribers because they're gonna be consuming all the content that you made prior.
And it's like, kind of like, to wrap it up, but you know, like you were saying before, you know, people don't see the process that you put in. People like, it's funny because like, let's say I got a follower today, new Instagram follower today, right? They only see me for at this point, at this moment in time, and from now on, like they never saw all the like Instagram stories, like everything, right? And so it's funny because in my Instagram bio, I actually put my entire story of how I got here and what I do in my bio. It's like very short, and the reason I do that is not to make people like feel bad for me, because I don't want people to feel bad for me. I want it to be an inspiration. And I put it in my bio because I really just want it to be relatable to people. Like, I want people to make sure that they know I didn't come from like a rich family, and the only way I'm able to travel is because, you know, my family's rich, and they're not rich, but you know, so I put it as my bio. So that's the first thing they see, and then they see my photos. Kind of like,
I like that.
So that they don't just see the travel photos and they're like, oh, he's just another like, you know, rich person, blah blah blah. And like, I'm not rich. I'm not rich.
You're just an average Asian guy. Like, so am I. And we're all just trying to like, you know, make something happen from nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's awesome. 100%. Well, I think if there's anything, I don't think there's anything else that you really want to add. Is there something you want to add to the podcast, like as an outro? I think I'm gonna start doing this thing where like I ask people to send in questions on Instagram. Ooh. Like you post on your story and you're like, hey, what questions do you want me to answer on the podcast? And I'll do the same. And then we answer that like as the outro of the podcast.
That's a good idea for the next one.
For the next one.
The next one. Hey, you'll see me Wen 2.0. This is before I made it, and then the podcast after I made it.
Well, honestly, man, I'm super stoked. Thanks for coming onto the podcast before you go travel across the world and do great things.
Oh, there's one thing I want to say. So I'm leaving in 2 days for Korea, and I see Edward on the street, and I park. I get my parking pass, and then I already had food, so I didn't eat, but we went to a place to eat. Edward ate, and we were leaving the place, and I'm looking in my pockets and my fanny pack. Yep, I wear one. And I'm like, where's my wallet? I don't feel it anywhere. And I got so freaked out, and I literally walked to my car and get in the car and don't see anything. And Edward's like, yo, what's this? And I thought I got a ticket, cause like, and I was like, what? I paid for my parking pass. How am I getting a ticket? And apparently there's still good people in the world. No, I'm just joking. I know there's good people in the world, but it's crazy because I literally had like 5 like, you know, cards just stacked up in the front, like the very first thing you see. And so it's cool because they wrote like, hey, I found your wallet. It's in this like restaurant. You can pick it up. And it's crazy because if I didn't get that, I don't even know if I could have gone to Korea because I would have needed an ID.
You know, ID
with my passport
and your cards, all that would have been such a headache, but that was avoided.
Ooh.
It's a good way to end your day.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like
100%.
So there's still good people in the world.
That's just like, I don't know why, but I just feel like so happy from that.
You're in a good vibe.
Yeah.
We're ending this podcast on a good note.
Yeah, it's a good vibe.
Yeah. Well, honestly, dude, it was super fun having you on the show.
Thanks for having me, bro.
For those of you guys listening, there's actually a video version of this podcast. But if you listen to this point, you probably don't want to watch it all over again in a video format.
So,
but,
we watch this again.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks for coming on the show.
Bro,
I think it was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Later.
Let's go. Peace.
Oh shoot! Oh.